Hello, Internet, and welcome to my review for Fairy Tail episode 305. When we last left off, Irene had changed the worlds with Universe 1. And everyone kind of had to regain their bearings. Most importantly, though, Zareth ended up in Fairy Tail's guild hall with Mavis. So that's not very good for her. Also, Irene has taken notice of Urza. And Zara's gotten everyone's attention, and with her mass communication spell, and directing them towards where Fairy Tail is, and they're all on their way there as we go into this episode. Also, Mira had a quick fight with Irene's henchmen, which left last episode off with Irene appearing behind Mira. So that's where we jump into with this episode, where we start a minute into the episode, and we've already got Irene bound Mira to a rock and melting off her clothes with the white servant's acid. I forget if that was Heine or Juliet, but whichever one it was. One thing I will say about that, though. So I know this is Mashima, and for Mashima, fan service is the given, and that's kind of one of my gripes with him. But like here, I don't remember if it was like this in the anime, in the manga, or if the anime just didn't really do a good job of adapting this. But like, despite the fact that the acid that's like melting her clothes is only on very specific parts of them, it melts the entire outfit, which is weird. That's not what happens. But whatever. That's a minor thing, but it's just really weird. We do get this cool conversation. August shows up with Brandish in tow to direct Irene towards the guild hall to reconvene with the rest of the 12 and Zareth so they can mount their final defense against Fairy Heart. The tables have turned in a really interesting way in this episode. Instead of the Alvarez Empire being the invaders, they are now situated at the guild hall, and Fairy Tail is trying to invade them, trying to invade Fairy Tail's own guild hall, which is an interesting twist on how this arc started. The main thing about this conversation, though, is that we see that Irene is hardly the blind follower of Zareth that August is. You know, August and Invel especially are the two big, we just love Zareth so much. And Irene, contemplates not going for a second. She eventually agrees to go. But it shows that she's not just some blind Zareth acolyte. Also, August punctures Mira's heart. So that happened. And I had remembered that scene, but I did not remember how Mira lived, so I was a little confused for a while before I watched this episode and saw the scene again. She survives because of Brandish, who shrinks her wound at the last minute. It's really, once again, Brandish's allegiance is murky. Both the audience and Brandish herself is never really sure what side Brandish is on. And I think that's what I've said before, Brandish is my favorite of the 12, and this is why. She's a character that could really easily just be, she does whatever she wants, and we don't need to justify it because she's not sure what side she's on. But while watching Brandish, I understand the kind of thoughts that are going through her head as she sees all this. She's torn to her longtime loyalty to Zareth and especially to August, but also she's seen most of Fairy Tail, besides Mest, I'll get to that in a few seconds, she's seen most of Fairy Tail take care of her. Even when she was a prisoner, she was treated mostly nicely, a couple creepy old men aside. I think where she is right now, is, with the results of Mest's actions, she has that grudge she's kind of wary of Ishgar because Mest did that, but I think she was aware that Lucy and Natsu were angry on her behalf for Mest's betrayal. So I think at this point, she's still firmly Alvarezian in her allegiance, but she does not want them to die. She knows that deep down they're good people, and that hopefully there is still a way to make this war end without bloodshed. That's her goal at the moment, I think. And that's why she stays Mira in this scene. So yeah, we'll get on with Brandish later. That scene with her and Demaria sets up some really interesting things to talk about in a minute. Before that, though, let's get what might be my favorite scene of the episode with Yukino and Sorano. Which is really interesting because we have not spent a lot of time with either of those characters, and we have not brought up their sisterhood since, early Grand Magic games, I think. I'm not even entirely sure it was confirmed during the Grand Magic games. I think we knew she had an older sister who was taken away by bad people, and kind of like put the pieces together. Oh, that's Sorano's backstory. But their scene this week is really good. You know, their bond really comes through, despite it's been who knows how many years since we've last talked about them being sisters. And like, you know, Sorano's desperation to have Yukino be a good person who doesn't, you know, isn't related to a sinner like her is, for one thing, it's the most character work Sorano's gotten in a long time. And it shows us how much Sorano's grown. You know, when she first joined up with Jalal, she was just doing it because all the Eurasians were doing it. And it was their one way to not go back to jail. But at this point, she really is actively seeking the forgiveness that Jalal preaches. So that's an interesting thing for her. One complaint there is that she doesn't actually leave Elfman and Sorano and Yukino. She goes with them to the battle, but she's still not considering herself Yukino's sister at the moment. So I'll give that one a pass for now. Anyway, this episode's big title-naming twist, Larcade. Larcade Dragneel, another Dragneel who has some weird powers that make people super happy. Let's go with that. And then kills them. The most important thing, though, is not his powers yet, which we'll get into when he takes a more active role in the story going forward. But what does it mean that there's another Dragneel? That's something that we're going to be exploring a lot in the coming episodes. Before that, though, we can go back to the Guildhall, where everyone is convening. So Mavis, you'll recall during the fight with Jacob, she saw something that gave her some kind of plan that might actually defeat Zareth. However, that's put to a stop because Invel has some kind of spell that freezes her thoughts, so she can no longer put together a thought enough to actually implement whatever her plan is. We'll see if she actually ends up getting to use that plan at some point in the future. Maybe it's loving Zareth. Now that she has her body back, she can use the Ansaram curse. I will admit, I don't actually remember what her plan is. I don't remember what it is, so I'm not going to be spoiling anything that I don't remember. But, you know, given the plans that she has at her disposal, loving Zareth to death is kind of like the best one I can think of at the very least. Anyway, meanwhile, the Spriggan 12 all gathered at the Guildhall, including both the defeated members and the Historias of the Three Dead Ones, thanks to Nineheart. But in the doing of that, we get this really interesting scene between Brandish and Demaria at the Guildhall. First, we learn that despite all of Demaria boasting that how much better she is than Brandish, now Brandish is just some like brat or whatever, Demaria really cares for Brandish. She's like, these people like imprison you, I'm going to kill them. So that shows a lot of Demaria's character, but we also see kind of the seeds of conflict between the two, despite Demaria's friendship with her. As we see Demaria wants to kill Fairy Tail, but we see Brandish kind of is like not quite comfortable with that because she's grown to care for these people, especially Lucy. So we'll see how that reacts to the two of them going forward. And then we're back at the first scene of the season. You'll recall the beginning of episode 1 of this season opened with Team Natsu, Sans Wendy, and with Juvia looking down at the guild and making their final assault, which is this scene in this episode. And honestly, I was kind of critical of it being in that point in the show, and I still am. I still don't know what it was doing there besides having a scene with all the characters together to remark on the finalness of it all, given how much this season has been boasted as the final season. Whether or not it actually ends up being the final season, of course, will depend on 100 Years Quest adaptations. Are we pulling a Monogatari and having a season after the final season? We'll see. Anyway, I really love the Final Dawn scene here, though. It's a nice reminder of the camaraderie this team has built up with each other over the years, which has always been the point of Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail's been about this family, growing together and kicking ass together, and having this moment before the final assault on Fairy Tail starts is just a nice reminder of who they are, why we love them so much, why we've been checking into this show for however many years we've been following it. Despite some of the fight-based messiness Mashima is prone to pulling, it's the bond of these characters that we care about. Also, of course, all of it is underscored by this dread that Happy has of knowing that when Zareth dies, so does Natsu. So it's just a really good scene, and it really makes you super excited for what's coming next. And then the gang goes into the final battle, their final assault on the guild hall, start laying waste to all the henchmen, whatever, you know, they're minor characters. They're not even minor characters, they don't have faces, they have armor. And everyone shows up, including, as I mentioned, Sorano with Yukino, which is still kind of weird. But they're gonna need all of Fairy Tail and all of Ishgar, because God Serena as a Historia is here. And no one can stop him this time. There is no Actilogia. He is way outside of the continent. No one can stop God Serena. Well, no one, that is, except Gildarts, who is back. And that ends this episode. So this episode was really good. As you can tell through this video, I love this episode. It's got that great scene between Sorano and Yukino. It tells us more about where Sorano's at than, like, the rest of the season so far. It's got quite a bit going on with Brandish's ever uncertain loyalties, further emphasizing why she's my favorite character of the 12. And it's got the dawn of the final battle. You know, it all comes down to this, and this episode does a great job setting everyone up for the final day. Next time, the battle continues as Gray meets his Alvarezian counterpart. So I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the episode and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe or, you know, do whatever makes you happy. And remember, y'all, your life is your own, okay? Bye.